これがバッテリー。
battery, so it's for this drone. So they all sit here,
Yeah.
and we need six batteries for one flight. And after flying for 15 minutes, we have to change the full set.
No.
And we cannot charge on the day of the flying because they require a lot of power, and it takes a long time to charge the batteries. So that's why we have to have many sets,
Oh, I see.
so we can fly the whole day.
Yeah.
So it's very expensive.
And also, seems very heavy.
It is extremely heavy. That's why it has the wheels. So each case, I think maybe 30 kilos. Yeah, about 30 kilos.
I see.
And that's why, like, if you want to do drone business professionally, it's a very expensive undertaking. These are the remote controllers. So that's what we use for the control. So you actually get, so this is the camera operator. Pilot has a separate control. So you have your basic controls here, and you have some extra controlling the camera, start, stop, recording, and everything.
It's like, remote.
Yeah, it comes from that. It comes from the hobby background. Yeah. But these are now professional systems. And these are the cameras we are using right now. These are the high quality. I'll show you here.
That's 8K?
We also have the 8K. I will show you the 8K as well. This one is not 8K. So this is the camera system. It's made by a company called Red, and they are an American company.
Yeah.
This particular camera is 4.5K, so more than 4K.
4.5.
And this can shoot high speed, 120 frames per second. But most important thing that this is actually capturing raw data.
Raw data.
There's no compression, nothing. It's just a raw data. So it's very valuable data set that we can use as standard camera companies. So compared to this, the 8K. So this is the 8K camera.
Oh, beautiful.
So as you can see, it has a 8K resolution. Also here, helium 8K. So helium is the sensor type, and it's a 8K resolution.
I see.
And what you will notice is that the form factor is the same.
I see.
The cameras are the same size. They are the same type of connector, same type of control. So once we can fly one camera, we can fly the other as well, no problem. So the only change is internal. So the sensor in this one is 4.5K, sensor in this one is 8K. So that's really the only difference between the cameras. Of course.
Oh, not so heavy.
Yeah, it's very compact.
Yeah.
I mean, if you compare it to the old HD cameras, when Sony started making HD cameras, they were much bigger, much heavier. So it's incredible that it's actually so small and compact. And actually, when we fly it, we can remove this entire segment because we don't need any of these ports. So it becomes even smaller, even more compact. Actually, Yasu-san, can you pass me the red camera there, the Raven? So this you can see how small it is when it's flying. So that has the port removed.
I see.
So it's really even smaller, even more compact. And that's all we need to fly. So as you can see, we have many of these cameras. And these are very expensive. The 8K camera is Isenman.
Isenman? Oh,
and there's only 20 of them in Japan.
20?
Only 20.
Just
and
20.
6 of them are with NHK.
NHK.
And we ourselves, this one is here, we are getting 2 more of these and 1 more upgrade for a different camera. So we're gonna have a 4.
Oh. 4000万.
So it's a very expensive undertaking, as you can imagine. And the trouble, of course, is that when you're flying with the drones, you know, you really have to know what you are doing. Because if you crash,
Yeah.
you are flying with the cost of the drone and everything, and cost of the camera and the specialist lenses.
Yeah, I see.
You are flying maybe, you know, 1500 or something.
It's like a super car.
Yeah, exactly. But the difference is that if you are rich and you buy a supercar, the supercar will not make you any money. You're only spending money and
Yes.
the value of the thing goes down. Something like this, it makes money all the time.
I see.
So we don't have a supercars, but we have 8K cameras.
Okay.
So just ordinary conversation.
Yeah.
Any special interview? Not any special interviews. Just a start conversation. Yeah. And he is living in Athena, Minasan Kokutoshi. And
Yeah, same city, I think.
it took about
Just next door.
20 minutes or so. 20分ぐらいでした。
そうですね。
20 minutes.
It's literally just here.
Very
next
near.
door. I'm looking at a house in Hokuto.
Wow.
Which area?
Just under the mountain, under the, what's it called?
Yasugatake.
Yasugatake.
I see.
Just the bottom part, because it reminds me Europe. Because you have all these like traditional European
I
buildings,
see.
and there's many like foreign restaurants. There's like Germans, Italians, and stuff. It looks like a European mountain resort. And there's a ski resort up on the mountain, and there's a big golf resort, and there's an onsen. It's a really, really nice area.
Yes.
So we went to see already maybe 5 properties. But the one that I was really interested in, the real estate first said yes, but then the owner later said no for some reason. So, but it's a beautiful area. It's
Yeah,
really
it's
nice
beautiful.
area.
And fresh air.
Yes, and just surrounded by the mountains and proper forest. Really reminds me home. So
Yeah.
So very good place to make research center. Many Yamanashi Prefecture is very good at operate research center.
well, that's why we are here.
Yeah, yeah. You have a good, you have your choice. Very good place.
So we were really looking. Our biggest issue is that we do a lot of work for drone development. And we were based in Tokyo. My original place is actually Machida.
Gotcha.
And then after the disaster with the Prime Minister, when somebody crashed a drone on the roof of the Prime Minister's office,
Oh.
it was like 2 years ago, I think. They put with the radioactive
Yeah.
dirt. It was all over the news. And then Tokyo stopped all the drone flying
I see.
until they figure out the new rules. So then when we incorporated in Sagamihara. It's just next door to Machida. And it was close to get the office, and they were still open. But then we really needed a large airspace to fly test the drones and fly. And a lot of that is automated flight. And you need to be safe. You need to be, when you're testing the technology and everything. So we realized we cannot do it in a Tokyo area and at the whole basin because it's just too crowded. And also a lot of air traffic.
Yeah.
There's many military bases, there's big airports and everything. So it's very difficult to do it in a Tokyo main area. So we start looking at the prefectures surrounding Tokyo. And we found a really nice place in Chiba. But because my home is in Machida, going to Chiba is like 4 or 5 hours. It's really hard to get there. It's the opposite side of the bay. Very inconvenient transport. And then through our common, who is Matsuki-san, who is an ex-NHK, and I used to actually work for him in the past, so I know him extremely well. He's been helping us a lot. So he introduced us to Yamanashi, and he brings us here and allows us to meet with many people and everything. They start showing us around. And we then found this, there's a river here right next to our property. And what is very interesting is that this valley here is actually the boundary between the 60 hertz, which goes Japan west, and the 50 hertz, which is the central and the north.
Oh, yes.
And here is the boundary.
I didn't know that.
So what happened, which is very unique in Japan, the entire stretch of the river has absolutely no wires going across,
Oh, that's
which
good.
is very rare.
Yeah.
Because they are everywhere in Japan. There's always wires going everywhere, and so the entire riverbed is completely free of wires. And it's within the city, within Hirosaki city limits, we basically have a 10-kilometer stretch of the riverbank.
Oh.
And it's a designated floodplain, so they cannot construct anything. The government cannot actually use the property for anything. But we don't want the land, we want the air, just about it. So we don't care about flooding or anything like that. So we start talking to the local government and to the local people, and they basically provided us with the access to the airspace. So the airspace was what brought us here. So once we have secured the airspace for our testing and development, then we start looking at the office space nearby the airspace. And we found this basically abandoned, disused factory. There used to be a mushroom factory. And it has a very large potential, very large space. It's almost 1,500 square meters property. We don't need that much right now. And we only converted so far 4 rooms, and we are gradually expanding and getting in. But that's the beautiful thing, because normally when you start as a company, it's very difficult, and we're going obviously through a very difficult time as a startup. And by the time you get really good, then you need to expand, you have to move, and you have to change all your infrastructure and everything else. Here we can just stay here and we can expand within the same property, and we can just take more and more and more, and eventually we have a plan, of course, to utilize the full 1,500 square meters. But we don't have the pressure of space, so we are very much relaxed in that space, and that's been very helpful. So yeah, we finally got here. We only been here now less than 1 year, and we really like the place. It's a fantastic environment. We are surrounded by the mountains. We have Minami Alps just on this side. We have a great views of Mount Fuji and Yatsugatake, and we have this little hill which is basically an ancient site of a Shimpu castle. That's just above the office, and it's a really nice park to go for a walk and just relax and just it's, as we say, very simple Japanese sentence is Zenzen Tokyo janai. It's really not, it's not like Tokyo. Tokyo is very stressful. There's a lot of pressure and things have to happen very fast and constantly moving. Here things are far more relaxed. And both of our business interests, one is research development and the other one is creative content, filmmaking and stuff. Both of these really benefit from being in this kind of environment. So we really like it here. And a lot of people who come to visit us, they are...
I read the newspaper, the Yamanashi newspaper, maybe in May, in March or February, we had a event.
JA.
We have a such paper.
I think we have a copy of it.
Let me see.
So what happens is that actually next city down south from here is Kai city. And in the Kai city, right at the boundary between Hirosaki and Kai, is a Japan Aviation Academy. And Japan Aviation Academy is the oldest and the largest aviation school, aviation high school in Japan. And we ended up forging a very close relationship with JAA, and it's fantastic because we are literally, we are 10 minutes apart from each other, and we basically, our airspaces connect to each other and we utilize our airspaces. And when I went to visit JAA for the first time, I actually, because I'm an ex-pilot myself from Slovakia, and I learned to fly on gliders that are made in my country. And when we visited JAA, I saw they have these 2 gliders and they look extremely familiar. They look like the ones I was learning at. And I asked them, it's like, so what is this glider? Because I learned to fly on a very similar one. And then they confirmed that indeed it's actually made in Czechoslovakia. So it's the exact same one. So they have the same gliders that I learned to fly on. And it's really forged a very good friendship with them. So we understand each other quite well. And what is interesting is because, and that's a common problem in the industry, in the drone industry, worldwide there seems to be this segregation when they try to separate the full-scale aviation from the drone and try to keep them as far from each other as possible. And I don't believe that's the right approach, because if you separate, then you cannot prevent completely interaction between these two, because we do share airspace. And as much as they try to segregate, there will be interaction. And if you separate these two from the very beginning, they don't know how to interact. And when we actually moved here, a lot of people were saying, like, if you are next to the aviation school, there's going to be a lot of conflict. And everybody said they're not going to be happy about you being here. And I said, no, that makes no sense. I'm looking as a pilot, looking at this, and I want to know if there's somebody who's going to share my airspace. I want to know as much about them as possible, and I want them to know as much about me as possible, so we can coexist. We can work together rather than against each other. And sure enough, on my very first visit to JAA, they showed real enthusiasm about the drones, and they themselves started they now have actually drone courses and teaching the drone pilots and the basis for the new industry. And they are very happy that we are next to each other. So it just enforces my view. And from the point of view of the pilots, I mean, that's what they want. They want to interact together.